Representatives from the company Facebook met with the Senate Intelligence Committee staff last week. As of yesterday, the top Democrat on the Intelligence Committee, Senator Mark Warner of Virginia, said that as far as he's aware, Facebook didn't disclose to his committee this new information that's by the Daily Beast, that in addition to buying ads on Facebook to try to influence the election, Russian operatives also used Facebook to try to organize in-person protests across the United States during the 2016 campaign. Joining us now for the interview is Senator Mark Warner. He's vice chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Senator Warner, really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Rachel.
So let me ask you first, I have a few questions about this Facebook issue.
Sure.
Did Facebook disclose to your committee the fact that in addition to Russia funding ads related to the election, they also used Facebook to try to organize real events? Did they disclose that they've confirmed that when they met with your committee?
No, they did not. Facebook, we'd made a request. They sent a team in. And remember, we're talking about Facebook, which over half of Americans use every day. We'd made these inquiries back last winter, saying that we'd heard and we thought that Facebook was both being manipulated by some of the Russians, that there were fake accounts. They were using this to, in effect, geo-target ads at certain communities to try to depress vote in the election. And Facebook's initial reaction was, oh, that's crazy, there's nothing there. Well, we now come to find, again, Facebook that half the Americans use to get their news from every day, that everything we said and more was true. They came in and made a presentation, said there was $100,000 plus of paid advertising. There were 3,000 plus ads purchased. And in that presentation, they showed the staff certain of those ads, but they didn't allow the staff to keep any of that material. And I went back, I figured you'd ask this question, and to my knowledge, they made no reference to this effort to try to bring about protesters to an anti-Muslim, anti-immigrant rally. It's why I think that we're still at the tip of the iceberg. But the fact is, I don't think the resources, the time, and I think there's a lot more. They've discovered one of the troll farms that came out of St. Petersburg. My understanding is they didn't even go back and check all those accounts to see if they had put out other ads. We know from past reporting that there were a number of these troll and other efforts, internet-based efforts, that came out of other countries in Eastern Europe that Russia was known to organize. We've not had any evidence that they investigated those efforts as well. So I think there's a lot more questions. I believe I have more questions coming out of their staff interview than got answered, but clearly there's a lot more questions that need to be asked and answered.
And in terms of their willingness to answer those questions and your ability to compel them to, I was interested to see Facebook's response to Bloomberg News today. Bloomberg was reporting on this controversy over whether or not Facebook is essentially part of the crime scene here, needs to be available to investigators. And what Facebook told Bloomberg today was that they weren't going to share any more details about how their platform is used during the campaign, quote, for operational and security reasons. And I don't know what that means. They're also citing the Electronic Communications Privacy Act as saying that some of the information that you guys want access to may be protected by that Privacy Act. Given the way they're sort of being resistant so far, do you feel like you and your committee have the ability to compel them to give you access to that data if they're not inclined as a company to do it?
Well, Facebook is a company that's a remarkable American success story. Lots and lots of people rely on Facebook, not only for news, but for other information and communication. A lot of that is based on trust. I would think that Facebook would want to cooperate with us. They've indicated in other releases that they would cooperate. I'll acknowledge that this area where it's kind of the wild, wild west, and there may be need for additional rules, but let's go through 2 or 3 facts that we do know. One, clearly there were Russians paying for ads on Facebook, and we'll see if the same is the case with Twitter when they come in and talk to us. And to me, that appears to be inappropriate. We have prohibitions against somebody putting a foreign-based TV ad on MSNBC. I believe those same rules should apply on social media sites. We also know as well that there is this inability to kind of look at the content. There may be some ad that runs on your show that I dislike or disregard, but as an American citizen, I've got a right to look at that content. What I think Facebook is saying is we have no right as Americans to look at the content that's being used to affect our political dialogue. And third, the question of the number of these fake accounts. They said they've identified, I believe, 470 fake accounts that might have been tied to Russia with this one troll farm. To me, I think back and say, well, Facebook didn't take this seriously in our election, but by the time the French elections came in the spring, Facebook themselves has reported they took down 50,000 accounts. Well, 50,000 in France and 470 in America. To me, I believe that the Russian effort to interfere in our elections, both using Facebook and Twitter, but also attacking 21 states' electoral systems, hacking into both political parties, releasing information only against one. To me, it seems that the Russian intervention in the American election was extensive, coordinated, and frankly, unprecedented. I got to believe if they took that much on, there's probably more to be discovered if they took down 50,000 sites in France. I would think they'd see equivalent numbers in American elections, but that's why they need to be a little more transparent and come forward.
And the transparency obviously applies not just to them policing their own platform and understanding what's going on and being transparent about it, but also helping investigators piece together what may have happened there.
Right. Facebook needs our trust as we go through this site, and they don't have any of the same rules that apply to broadcasting stations, but as more and more Americans and folks around the world rely upon them, I think it does raise a host of new questions about who's going to curate the information, what kind of validity do we feel like the information that's coming over. Some of this, sometimes the ads are only a piece. If you've got a series of false accounts liking certain groups or certain pages, that may drive those groups higher on the algorithms that would then appear on your Facebook newsfeed. So a lot more questions to ask. And again, my hope would be they'd work with us because this is increasingly going to be the way that people communicate in the political world.
Senator Warner, I have one other matter that I want to ask you about, which is something that I don't think anybody else is worried about, but I am. It's bugging me. It's about the progress of the various
investigations. I've listened to the litany of the programs today. There's a lot of stuff to be worried about.
Oh, good. Well, I have one big worry to ask you about. Do you mind sticking around with us for just one moment?